Right, we are back live on Lee TV's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Welcome back to everyone who is back joining us. Just a couple of technical issues, but that's life over the internet, people. That's life over the internet. So back to the Manchester City game, then, Keith. We've already discussed sort of how, in a sense, better the performance was. I thought the performance was better than Monday night against Palace, better than the Villa game, better than a couple of our previous games under Marsh. Obviously, it was a 4-0 defeat. Big talking points coming out of the game, though. Injuries. I thought we've escaped them for a little while. We haven't had any big injuries for a couple of games. Obviously, Crescenzo Somerville looks like he's out for the rest of the season, and a couple of other injuries in there as well. But two mainstays, Liam Cooper, Stuart Dallas, doesn't look too good for them. Massive losses, aren't they?
Yeah. Losing Cooper pre-game, that were a really bad one because I think we've conceded 1 goal since Cooper came back. And the difference with him inside and outside, figures show himself, and such a natural leader and an organizer, and we've missed his 4 months out, so it's sad for him. And then just before break, Stuart Dallas does what goes into a tackle. You could tell as soon as they clashed, it was a bad one, and it's turned out to be. And I wish him all the best. He's a 100%, 110% player who's moved everywhere under Bielsa and under Bash, and it's such a gutting that he'll miss the sort of like the last 4 games. And if the kind of injury is, we might not see Stuart Dallas maybe till next year. Depends how he heals. So it's heartbreaking. It really is. It's heartbreaking.
I think sorry, you carry on. I was going to say, the weird thing about Stuart Dallas is we've seen the impact of a Calvin Phillips injury. We've seen the impact of Bamford and Cooper's injuries before. We've never seen the impact of a Stuart Dallas injury on this side under Bielsa, now under Jesse Marsh. I don't know. I don't remember a game or a long sustained period of time where Stuart Dallas hasn't been involved. He's always been able to cover at centre mid, at left back, at right back, sometimes even in defensive midfield if he's had to for a
he is one of the shining lights. I think he's one of the
players who's actually irreplaceable. Yeah,
he is, and especially we are blessed at left back, aren't we? Really, so he was doing pretty good at the left back, even though a couple of times he does get. Sometimes a ball will get overhead and he'll do, but you'll always get. Stuart Dallas, to me, has always been a bang 7 out of 10 every game. So I mean, for players, that's high as that. So it's just another awful thing to happen in this god awful season. So I mean, it kind of sums it up when you lose a player who probably he missed 1 game. 1 game. So I mean, it means that the last of them, the players what are left have just got to battle on without him. But I can see him being in the dressing room like Forshaw and probably Cooper, because from what I've heard, if the rumours are right, Cooper won't play again this season.
I was going to say I've seen that on Twitter as well. What the club released yesterday actually about Dallas was they didn't give a time period, but they said like a sustained long period of time, which you would imagine means missing the rest of the season at least
6 to 9 months.
I was going to say I think that's a given. It's whether we'll see him back this calendar year is almost another question. And
it's usually about 6 to 9 months injury. So
So like you said, if we see him back this year, it may be a bit of a miracle. And I think just Cooper's been out injured for a lot of this season anyway. But like you said, 1 goal conceded. It was a James Ward-Prowse free kick, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So from open play, we haven't conceded 1 when Cooper's been back. And I just think we lost that kind of mentality. And as good as a captain as Ayling has been, I just think there's something.
He's the best organizer at club.
You can see why all the lads love him.
Yeah. The thing is, I think you've got to remember he's been captain for 4 seasons. And you become a leader of men by leading an example. And I know he gets criticised, but if people need to remember that when Cooper went outside back in December, I think we shipped in 27 goals.
It was that Brentford game, wasn't it? He went off, and it was a period of City 7, Liverpool sort of 6. Then you had obviously Man United 4, Liverpool 4, and ultimately that was the end of Bielsa. And it's such a bleak period of time for this football club. Michael Brown is here to cheer us up, though, in the comment section. Well, I say cheer us up. I've just read his comment. He said, not sure how Leeds get out of this one, and losing Forshaw, Dallas and Cooper are bad omens, and I hope to God I am wrong. But with a small squad, I pray for no more injuries for the rest of the season. It's such a low point, this. And I think the annoying thing is, I think we all, like I said earlier in the previous stream, we didn't. I don't like going into these games with a defeatist attitude. I want us to put 100% in because we didn't lose to Man City last season and they were equally as good. I felt like, okay, even if we are to lose this, surely other results are going to go our way. Burnley have hit 2 goals in 10 minutes away from home at Watford. How can Watford not hold on for that? Chelsea, and I'm sure there are going to be Leeds fans and Burnley fans out there saying Frank Lampard told Aspilicueta to pass the ball straight to Richarlison. I'm sure that's not the case. It's just so frustrating, and you kind of knew it was going to happen. I was speaking to Chelsea fans. I think Everton win there against at Goodison Park against Chelsea quite a bit. I think their record there against Chelsea is really, really good, and you saw it coming a mile off. And now we're in the position where it's out of our hands. And whether you, if Everton and Burnley go on to win all their remaining games, we are down. And even if we win all our remaining games, we're down. And it's such a sort of helpless position, isn't it, Keith?
Well, I think no team's gone down with, I think, 37 points. So it's quite, not recently anyway. So it's quite a high. I think might have been a couple of seasons when it might clocked on to 40. It's where the result, it's where the wins are going to come from. We got Arsenal next week. We're looking for 4th place, playing really well. You know, from what I heard, they played really well at West Ham, and then Chelsea before the cup final. But you know, they'll still bring in players who want to show that they're good enough to get into cup finals, into the cup final lineup. You know, so it is hard, and it's very hard to be positive at the moment. I think that this stretches back a long time, and eventually we'll come on to it. Is that, you know, if some buts, but we had we came 9th in Premier League the first season. Obviously, that's, you invest to move that, even to match that kind of squad. And you don't do that by just buying a left back. You just don't do it. So I put this blame totally at Mr. Rodgers and his door. I think it's been poor management, and I think even though Victor Otto's brought a few good players in, I think some of them are just not turned to be good enough. We are where we are now.
Yeah, we'll get onto that now, actually. But before we do speak about that, I want to get your thoughts on the paper that was in the stands at the weekend. Did you enjoy seeing those chucked on the sidelines? There's one positive. Yeah. We had a nice Yorkshire banner before the game kicked off. That was nice because we're the only team in Yorkshire, surely, aren't we? Yorkshire was a bit. I don't know. I quite like it, but it was like, I don't know.
Where does count? You know, when you're planning something like this, where does common sense come into it? You know, don't they realise, sort of like, we've got a piece of paper. Oh, we can throw it on pitch.
Exactly. And do they not realise that Jack Grealish will be on one of the wings who Leeds fans don't really like?
No.
And it's just so. I don't know if it's actually real or photoshopped. Did you see on Twitter there's like a photo of 2 people holding up a banner saying like "Raise your signs now"?
Yeah.
Was that actually real?
Yeah. So from other, it was real. Yeah.
I don't think we even got that. You know, in the centenary game, I was there against Birmingham in that East stand.
So
I don't think that we even got a sign for that to say please raise them now. I think it's just common sense. I'm not raising it during the warm up. I'm not going to raise it during the 30th minute. I'm going to raise it before kickoff. I just think when you see that, it's just. And to be fair, Gary Neville didn't like the paper either, so I think
no, he thought it was scandalous that a 12-year-old was throwing a thing, and he should be banned.
A 12-year-old who was about 2 foot and definitely wasn't 12 years old.
Yeah, exactly. But it's they have made some strange decisions going back to Badgegate. May I mention?
Yes. Yeah.
So the thing is, I just can't understand why they did it, but maybe it were, I don't know. Maybe somebody brainstormed it and said, right, well, we'll raise Yorkshire.
Yeah.
It's gone now.
I think it's one of those ideas in the head that sounds better than actually performing it properly, I think.
Yeah, it definitely does. Especially when the club's been warned about missile throwing in previous games.
Yeah, exactly.
Spurs. So it just seems, it's just, it kind of sums up who is running the club at the moment, to be honest.
Well, let's go on to that point. I'm going to read you out a tweet that's sort of been going around at the moment. You've probably seen not necessarily the specific tweet, but the general meaning and discussion of it. Leeds Championship 11, Meslier, Ayling, White, Cooper, Alioski, Phillips, Hernandez, Click, Dallas, Harrison, Bamford. Dare I say it, but apart from Rafinha, I don't think we've massively improved that starting 11.
I've said all along, we came up with a better squad than we have got now. And we have spent 100 million quid.
Yeah.
Roundabout, give or take a few quid. And
so Sorry, Karen.
And that's where his problem is. Some of the players who have come in have just not done it. It's always a gamble buying a player. Well, you'd think that enough work's done on them to see that they fit in, which obviously they do, because Bielsa demanded a kind of mentality, what could fit into a team group. I think in that way they fit it, but sometimes it is a gamble to buy a player, and a lot of these gambles have been really poor, but gambles. But that's.
Well, let's go through those gambles, because obviously Pablo Hernandez was reaching an age and a point where actually I still would love him in the squad at the moment. But let's say Rafinha comes in for him, which I think is a bit of a sort of majority result. Obviously, Ben White, the situation was a bit out of our hands. It seemed like Brighton weren't going to budge. I do feel like at a certain price they would have done though. I don't think any of the centre backs we've got at the moment would perform a better partnership than Liam Cooper and Ben White. I don't think.
I totally agree. But how many times have Llorente and Koch, who were supposed to be the players who actually were our centre backs, how many times have they played? I can't remember them playing double figures because of injuries.
No. Yeah,
so
exactly.
They do seem, Koch especially seems to be a bit injury prone. He seems to have quite a few niggles. Llorente is just like a mad frog in a box, to be honest. He has entertainment value, but from a Spanish international centre back, I think he's not as good as Ben White. But Ben White's gone now. Sorry, Benjamin White.
Benjamin, yeah.
White, Benjamin White.
Not Benji.
No, Benjamin White. Yeah, Benjamin White had a fantastic season, and he was incredible in that side.
Wasn't it every minute he played, didn't he?
Yeah, every minute again. So we couldn't buy it, so we went down and we bought two players for about combined how much we'd say if it had been 40 million quid. Llorente was 17 or 18 million. Koch were about 14, 15, something like that with add-ons. So I don't think I've had the best luck with injuries. But remember, one were a German international, one were a current German international, and one was a Spanish international. Both are well down the pecking order now, I'd say, and will probably struggle to get in the German national side to get into World Cup. I don't see either of them going to World Cup unless there's injuries. I think it's a lot of players in front of them. So, that's one department where you got to be strong. And we've never had, a run of say 10 games when his centre backs were the same. No. when you work with somebody, you get to use them, you cover for them, and we've never had that with Ben White and Cooper. They were just, apart from Cooper had a couple of injuries, but mainstay at team was Ayling, White, Cooper, and Alioski, which is another player.
Well,
he might have been as balmy, another balmy frog, but by God, do we miss his energy and his enthusiasm, and we've not replaced that. We've not replaced it,
and that's what Michael's saying here. Firpo is a poor signing at 15 million.
He's just a poor signing.
He's not an upgrade on Alioski.
He's not played for 12 months. He's he not played regularly for 12 months. Maybe he might turn out to be a Harrison or a small slow burner. Maybe next season he might come good. But what worries me is if it does happen and we do get relegated, I can't think who we start next season, because I think there'll be a flood of players coming out. I think if maybe Meslier might stay. I don't know unless an offer comes in.
Oh yeah,
Calvin,
I was having this sort of chat.
I think
I was having this chat with my friend.
I think they'll go.
And I don't know. It's such I almost don't want to have this discussion now, but you can't help but think about it. And I think Phillips, Rafinha, I think Meslier would go, but I think that he's too good. That's just a case of being too good for the Championship. I don't think that. I like to think that Ayling, Dallas, Cooper, Forshaw, maybe Bamford would stay. What happens to Jack Harrison and Dan James because they've been bought in this summer? They're on fresh contracts. What on earth happens to them? And if you want to do it right, if they're going to do it right, the owners need to try and keep as many of them as possible, because I think that squad with Joe Gelhardt, who could be another name that could go, I think the squad would be good enough to potentially bounce back. But I don't like thinking of going down yet when it's not mathematically possible. But like we've said, the results really just weren't kind to us at the weekend. It's out of our hands. Where do you think we now go from here? I mean, let's start off with this Arsenal game, because Arsenal away, we never seem to win in London. We've been hit 4-1 by them earlier on in the season. Lost to them at the Emirates in the Carabao Cup.
But the record in London this season is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Beat West Ham, beat Watford.
Beat West Ham, beat Watford. I forget Watford's anywhere near London,
Yeah. So it's not that bad. But it's Arsenal, they're a bit inconsistent. But what I saw on Sunday, they look hungry for that fourth place. And, it's either them or Spurs. So they'll be going all guns blazing. And if you look at who we're going to be without, it could be a tough afternoon. And if you look, I mean, you can't not look at other teams' fixtures.
We have to now. We have to.
Burnley have got a decent run in. I'd say Everton's not easy, but the 3 games I think I'd say they'd get at least 7 points out of, because they play Palace, Brentford, and Watford, and you can see them picking 7 points out of there. So if you put 7 points on top of them, maybe another point. To be realistic, I think we have to win his last 3 games to even have a remote chance of staying up.
3 games to have any sort of chance, really?
Yeah. Because
9 points would put us on 43, wouldn't it? I think.
I think the momentum what Everton got yesterday will be taken forward, even though they are inconsistent. Burnley they've just gelled. The team has just gelled. I don't think this run what they're on will continue till end of the season. I think they may get a couple of defeats, which could help us. But we've got to start winning. And if you look at the fixtures, Arsenal's a toughie. Chelsea, it depends how we adapt to that situation. And if we just think, right, this is our chance, we've got to go for it now, because you've got back-to-back home games. You've got Chelsea and Brighton. So if by chance you can get 6 points, that gives you 6 points onto what we've got, gives you a massive chance going into that last game. And if any results have gone our way, which it seems to be, no results are going for us at the moment. If you get a situation when you are going in the last game and you've got to go to Brentford, you've got a good chance. Admittedly, we haven't won there since 1954, which is even older than me, believe it or not. So
for the game that could be, do we stay in the Premier League? We have to go to a place where we haven't won since 1954.
Me and my son said before Christmas that we would have to go to Brentford to get something to stay up, and we've said it all along. So if the fates are kind to us, and Lady Luck for once shines on us, and we actually get some points, and we go into Brentford with at least something to go to. My biggest fear is that if the results go poorly up to Brighton, I reckon Brighton at home could be a nasty atmosphere.
Well, that's the thing.
Really turn on them.
With the Brighton, they've just gone to Molineux and won 3-0.
Yeah,
they don't seem to be as close as the beach is to Brighton. They don't seem to be anywhere near on the beach yet. And
Brighton usually win 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, I know.
Every season, that's what they win. 8 or 9 games. That's it.
They're capped. They can't come to Ellen Road and win. They can't. They are capped at 8 or 9 wins, and they're slowly trying to exceed that. I think you're right, actually. These where it's like, oh, it's a free hit. I don't care if we defend 11 men behind the ball and play out the most boring 0-0 you've ever seen. It's a point. And at this point, if I love how a couple of weeks ago we were looking at the Watford game going, yeah, it's a really good result, but performance-wise, it wasn't brilliant. Hopefully next season in the Premier League, we'll see a better performance. We can build on the Marsh sort of ball and improve performances. Now I cannot care what the result is as long as we take something from the Emirates. I think the annoying thing is with the Chelsea Brighton sort of 2 home game, it's a vicious circle. No, it's not a vicious circle. Sorry, it's either a massive advantage, get something against Chelsea, potentially win. 4 days later, we're back at Ellen Road. It's Wednesday to Sunday. The atmosphere kind of carries on, and you're still there.
It'll be a bear pit. It really will. From minute one, it really will. I mean, I've been lucky enough to sort of like been in a lot of Ellen Road crowds when it is proper hostile, and I could see Leeds. Say for instance, we beat Chelsea and we've got a good chance. I could actually see it as winning, but we've got to start taking us chances, because that's as worst thing. If you're conceding, shipping them in at other end, and you're not scoring at other end, you're not going to win games.
Very Michael Owen of you, Keith. Very Michael Owen of you.
No, but football's a simple game. Stop them score against them. You win games. But at the moment, we just don't look like doing it. We just don't. And I think he had a massive opportunity to say, right, we'll put in Gellard. We'll give him till end of the season. Let him run with it. But he persisted with Dan James, and I'd say that's one thing I could point at Marsh and said, you got that wrong. You had a striker who you could have put up front, and every time he comes on, he looks busy. He looks busy. Even when he came on Saturday, he had 2 really good chances.
He looked good. Yeah. And that's the annoying thing. And
James does, apart from one game, James doesn't look like he's going to score. He
No.
just doesn't. He just doesn't look like he's going to score.
No, you're right. And I think what's weird is how after that Watford game, we've sort of sat here thinking the only way it could go wrong is if Burnley create an unbelievable run of form and Everton really put some good run. Like they've got Man United at home, they've got Chelsea at home. There's no way they're getting 6 points out of those. And the thing is, under Jesse Marsh, before the game at the weekend, we were actually in a really good run of form. Hadn't lost in 4 or 5, 2 clean sheets on the bounce. It was all looking up. And now we go into this Arsenal game, which let's dive into, in a position where we need something.
Yep.
Whether we, the simple question is, do we get something from Arsenal? I don't know. And Arsenal, like you said, look hungry for that top 4 spot. They're fighting it out with their North London rivals, Tottenham. And I just think that we need to go there and put as many behind the ball, because I think Arsenal actually are a club stereotypically in recent years who have bottled these top 4 places in the last couple of games of the season. I remember one season, whether it was 18-19, they lost to Brighton at the Emirates, and they've done the same again this season, 2-1, which sort of damaged their top 4 chances. I don't think. I mean, they've been hit with injuries a lot as well. Ben White wasn't playing at the weekend. Kieran Tierney's out for the rest of the season. Nuno Tavares against Rafinha, I think, would be a really good battle for Rafinha to win. Tavares looks like, well, like you described, Llorente.
The one thing
I don't know how this game's going to go.
The one thing I think we've got to do on the fault as strikers. If you are going to play Rafinha inside, move him at number 10, because he's wasted where he is at the moment, because he's been told to come inside. So if he's been told to come inside, why not play him on inside and get James on one side and Harrison on the other side, and try that? It's desperate times. He might play a five at back like he did against Manchester City and up to do. But if you concede in that game, how do you change it to get back in the game? Because we all know the old 1-0 to the Arsenal. Arsenal will be quite happy to just all that say, well, we'll stick at 1-0 and we'll just carry on like that. They get 3 points.
But that first goal is so crucial, though, isn't it?
Oh, of course
that's
it
the
does.
thing. Our heads seem to drop when we go 1 down.
The hardest thing is, I've said all season, if we go into bottom 3, I think that's it. And if Everton beat Leicester and we don't get anything positive, we're at bottom 3.
Yeah.
And confidence wise, and the thing it does to your own mentality once you're in that bottom 3, it's very hard to get out. I'm not saying that there are players in there at Leeds who are battlers and they will battle till the final whistle at Brentford. But psychologically, going in bottom 3 could have think, oh God, we're here, and it's very hard to get out, and it puts more pressure on us. And
it will,
and maybe after a win against Chelsea, Everton will be well up for this, so they'll know if they win, it puts Leeds at bottom 3. And there's no better there's no better incentive for any club to do that. So
that's the thing. It's a bit like in the playoffs in the Championship, where you're now looking for who plays first out of the 3 teams, who plays last, and who can have that momentum to carry on if one of the teams drop points. And what Michael said here, he said that he thinks there'll be more twists and turns before the season's over. We've still got 4 games left. Everton has still got 4 games left. There's plenty of points to play for. It's just the current situation we're in doesn't look great.
I think it was a shock. It was the actual shock of not us losing, but Everton winning. Because the thing. To me, it was a banker. It was a banker Chelsea win, and all you kept is thinking, right, they're still 5 behind. Yeah, we've got Arsenal and Chelsea to play, but they're still 5 behind, so they've still got to win 2 games to get over us out of a 5-game stretch. So that gave me a hope. But it didn't turn out like that. I think it is what it is now. No club has ever stayed up with us with a a goals against column like we have. We've conceded 70 odd goals.
Well, that's one of the things. Our goal difference at minus, what, 34 is it
5?
now? Minus
It's 34,
35
yeah.
is
So,
basically a point behind
it's a point.
Everton
That I doubt,
and Burnley, isn't it?
It's a point, yeah. It's a point.
And that's the really frustrating thing. And it is that run where Cooper and Phillips went in the side, where we conceded to all these so-called big boys. And that's where we've sort of been defeated. I'll tell you what, Keith, let's have a look a bit of a relegation watch here. Let's predict the weekend.
Right, okay.
Three teams.
Right.
Burnley play host to Aston Villa at Turf Moor. They play first. They're 3:00 on the Saturday. How do you see that one going?
Well, Villa got 37.
Villa,
Villa,
I think, they won at the weekend. They beat Norwich. They're on 40, and they've only played 33 themselves. So they're pretty fine.
I'll be hopeful and say draw.
I'm going to go 1-1 draw as well for that game. You then turn to Sunday, the 8th of May. We take on Arsenal, and I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal. I don't think we'll get anything, and I hope I'm proved wrong. I really, really hope I'm proved wrong. I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal.
I'll go 2-0 Arsenal, because what worries me is that, like I said, we just don't look like scoring at the moment. We just don't, and with two key players out at back, and we look like we'll concede. I hope I'm wrong. I hope everybody can give me as much lambasting as possible and rip me to pieces.
I want to be proved wrong.
I do.
I want to
really
be proved wrong. But I don't. Sorry. So
go on.
I just don't think I've seen Twitter as negative. I think, or like more adamant, will go down than after like the Aston Villa game, or when Norwich equalised in that split minute before the Norwich game, or during the Norwich game. Sorry, I don't think I've seen Twitter as a consensus, and I still think that's partly because of the hangover of the Everton game at the weekend. Like, that's only just 24 hours old. Come Sunday, we'll think we can still get into the top 10. I'm sure of it. So we'll see how this goes. Leicester host Everton at the. Well, like we said, Chelsea was a bit of a banker. I do think Everton's away form is diabolical, and I do think they'll lose this one 2-1 to Leicester, I think.
On us even, one apiece.
One apiece. So, judging off your predictions, we will still be 17th place. And judging off but 1 point ahead of Everton with a game in hand. And off mine, it will be exactly the same, but Burnley will be 1 point ahead and Everton will be 1 point behind. Or no, we'll stay at the 2 point gap, but Burnley will go 1 point ahead. It's going to be an absolute, like Michael said, twists and turns come the end of the season. Before I ask you the question of whether you think we will go or not, and I still think it's too early to say because there are 4 games left, 5 for Everton. Michael Brown's brought up a really interesting talking point. Will Marsh stay if Leeds go down?
Yes. Yeah.
I think he will as well.
He'll stay.
I think he will as well.
He'll stay.
I think he's bought into the club quite a bit.
Yeah, I think he sees. I had to laugh at this because when he was doing this, all I could think of was Ted Lasso. That's all I could think about. Seriously, that's something what Ted Lasso would do. I just thought, first thing what came in. Yeah, he'll stay. I think he'll stay because he'll see it as a massive challenge to get this club back up. We haven't gone yet, but I think he would. But he would want certain guarantees of that, because if you think the finances changes massively, where we're going to be shopping at bottom end again, to hopefully getting a couple of unearthed gems, because we won't have that. These 4 games now are so important to this club, because if this goes peak shit, the ground doesn't get moved. There's no improvement on the ground. That's for certain. That won't happen. I think there will definitely be key players leaving, and hopefully a change of ownership for me.
It's horrible. It's gonna be horrible items. My is I don't know if my Wi-Fi is going here. Can you hear Keith?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
I think my Wi-Fi's having.
Yeah.
Still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think
Clear.
Wi-Fi having a bit. I think my Wi-Fi's having a bit of a up, which is probably start to call it there. Before end it,
Okay.
do you think as it stands?
As it stands, like I said, if we're going to Brentford, wanting, needing anything, I'd be positive. Hello?
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah. There's a bit of feedback, but that's fine. I can still hear you.
Oh dear.
I can still hear you. Shall we call it a day? I think the gremlins have got us.
You can